All right. Bonjour, telahai, gui, hello, bienvenue à tous. Welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us on our Entrepreneur Coffee Break. Today is September 24th, 2025. I'm Carol Spicer of Spicer Facilitation. I'm very pleased to have you with us here this morning. We've got some new faces on this call here today, so I'm just going to kind of give you a bit of an introduction as to what this is all about, and have each of you then introduce yourselves so that others on the call may know. I do have some of my regular groupies. I see Scott and Sharon and Terry Lynn. I think between the three of you, you've probably hit the highest number of sessions attended. So I appreciate you hanging in with me. So before I begin all of that, though, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that I'm joining you from the unceded territory of the ancient Beothuk, which today is known as Pasadena. I ask you to think about the lands that you're joining us from. We have many Indigenous populations in our province. We actually have five. We have the Beothuk, the Mi'kmaq, the Innu, the Inuit, and the Southern Labrador Inuit. We also have self-identified individuals who may be belonging to other First Nations as well. Um, Truth and Reconciliation Day is coming up on Tuesday. And so I ask you to think about the lands we're joining from, what role we can play in furthering those relationships and repairing those relationships. So I ask you to join me in thinking of that and acknowledging with respect the diverse cultures and traditions, all my relations. So what is the coffee break? The coffee break started, the virtual coffee break that is, started as a pilot before your day, Kelly. It was a partnership with Navigate in January 2020. And we decided to do a 3-month pilot. Well, I think everyone knows what happened in March 2020. So we just kept on plowing along, and we are actually coming close to the end of our 6th year of coffee breaks. So if you think about that, folks, in January will be 7th year. So they say the 7-year itch. We'll see if we can keep it going to go. But it's been, I kind of tease Scott and Sharon and Terry Lynn, who are always, who've been with me on many, many of these, but we have had so many different unique individuals come on to these coffee breaks. And really, it's my way of giving back to the community that supports me as a business owner. And, the studies that have been done to say business owners thrive when they can talk to each other. And so this is, kind of my space to be able to give to you. And it's a community that, as long as you folks still are showing interest, I'm still going to provide the space. And it gives us that chance to celebrate successes, share our challenges, encourage each other. Many folks that are on here today are solopreneurs, and as a result, we don't necessarily have a big team supporting us. So sometimes it's just nice to be able to talk to somebody else and say, "Hey, they've gone down this path as well." And so that's kind of what it's about in a nutshell. So I'm going to run through folks to introduce themselves, and I'm going to go the way you show on my screen as the Brady Bunch family. So Carmelita, you're going to be first, and then Sharon, and then Kelly Faye. So if you want to introduce yourselves, let folks know who you are, what organization you're with, and maybe where you're located, because I always find that's interesting to know how far we've reached. So Carmelita, you're up first.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carmelita Morgan, and I live in Deer Lake, and I operate Karma Yoga. And so I've been teaching yoga for 15 years now. This is my 15th year, and teach all kinds of yoga to people from 2 up to 92. So it's very interesting. I love it. I feel I'm making a big difference in people's lives, in their health and in their kind of peace of mind as well. We have some lovely classes, I have to say. Yeah, so I'm also a member of the Health and Wellness Committee here in Deer Lake. So we're trying to do great things on that board as well. One of the things that came up this week when I was talking to someone is grief, grief, people going through grief. And, you know, I even noticed here that there's nothing for anyone going through grief, no support group or anything like that. So we all know how important that is and how isolated, I guess, you can feel. So I'm going to be bringing that to committee when we start up again, and also, you know, bring it into our yoga classes, because I know there are always people there who are dealing with grief as well. So it's nice to be here. Thanks, Carol.
Thanks, Carm. Sharon, and then Kelly Faye, and then Scott.
Good morning, everybody, from sunny and beautiful Pasadena. Sharon Evans. I'm a meditation teacher, and I'm owner and operator of Siva Meditation. I'm passionate about what I do. I've been teaching meditation for 10 years. I trained, for anybody who don't know me, I trained with Deepak Chopra and his team in California. I graduated in 2015 and came back to Pasadena, and I've been teaching meditation one person at a time. It's a slow process, trying to hook people into being healthy, wealthy, and wise. It's not an easy sell, apparently. So yes, currently to reiterate with the grief, I've dropped off flyers, I'd say about 6 or 7 years ago, to all of the funeral directors and the West Coast. I offer a session on grief because it is a big thing. It's something that we all know. Death doesn't happen to somebody else. It's going to be happening to everybody. We're all gonna die, and we actually should be celebrating that so we can enjoy our life. So that's pretty much what I do every day. Encourage people to enjoy their life. Number one, me. I enjoy every moment, and if I'm not enjoying my life, I stop and ask myself why. Because everything is, as you can see, everything is happening miraculously all around us. So it's a great job that I have. We call it a job. It's great, and I love these sessions, Carol, obviously, to get to meet new people and the old faces that pop up every month as well. So thanks, Carol, and great to see you all.
Excellent. Thank you, Sharon. Welcome. Kelly, and then Scott.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Faye. I use pronouns she, her, and I am the manager at Navigate here in Corner Brook at the Center for Research and Innovation. We support entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business owners to start and grow their businesses. And I just really want to thank Carol for A, supporting Navigate, and B, for taking the initiative to continue the conversation about AI. We offered a session. It feels like a long time ago now, but we offered a session on September 16th. Yeah, it feels like a long time ago now. Anyways, just a week ago, on AI, and had Mark Patterson from Magna come in. And I just think there may be a bubble about AI and it's going to pop, but I think it's not going to leave us. And I think the more that we can either use those tools or be aware of those tools, at the very least, as business owners, I think the better. So anyways, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. And yeah, I think that's it.
Excellent. Thanks, Kelly. Scott, and then Kevin.
Hey, Carol. So I'm Scott Andrews. I'm with a national nonprofit called Futurepreneur Canada. I'm currently located in not sunny St. John's, Sharon. So I don't know what's going on. It always seems to be sunny in Pasadena. So it's gray and overcast in the east end of St. John's now. So, but yeah, like love attending these sessions. Like Carol said, I've probably attended most of them. I'm still waiting for my frequent flyer status, Carol, if you're my elite status for these sessions. Love these sessions. And as a personal plug, as somebody who is located in St. John's, but Newfoundland and Labrador is the area that I cover. I love these sessions so much because it really allows me to connect more with my East Coast ecosystem, even though I'm only on the West Coast 2, maybe 3 times a year if I'm lucky. It still allows that connection. So thank Carol and the group for that. And just as a quick futurepreneur, if you're not familiar, again, we are a national nonprofit, been around for a while. Next year is a big year for us. It'll be our 30th year. And we specifically help more youth entrepreneurs in Canada try to get started. So we focus on those under 40. I know Carol wants to start a group that helps entrepreneurs over 40. That's great. Hope Carol successfully does that. We focus on the youth in Canada, and we provide small loans, financing, plus mentorship for their first critical 2 years of business, and lots of free business resources for all entrepreneurs. And you don't need to be within our age range. And I'll be booking my travel soon, but I hope to be on the West Coast in a couple of weeks, Carol. So thanks.
Excellent. Awesome. Yeah, I keep telling Scott we need a maturepreneur for those of us that are a little bit past 40. But I will do a plug in. I've been a mentor in Scott's program for an entrepreneur in my own community. And it's a really, really rewarding experience to be able to guide someone as they're going through those stages and just having somebody that they could talk to. So if you're interested in perhaps being a mentor, then reach out to Scott because I'm sure he'd love to have you on board. And he did slip in there in the end. They've got a lot of resources that you don't have to be in that under 40 range. You can access some of their webinars and their toolkit that they have. So check out Futurepreneur. Awesome. Thank you as always, Scott. Kevin, you're up next, and then it will be Stella.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My first time here.
Yes, welcome.
Would you be able to tell me if this is facing the right way?
Yes, elearningshow.com is what I'm saying.
Okay, because on my screen it's got to be reversed, so it's projected the correct way to you guys.
Okay.
As you can tell, with elearningshow.com, also with cansomebodyhelpme.com, many years ago when I opened up those organizations, it was to help people figure out technology. And of course, with the migration of what technology used to be like to what it's currently being like with a lot of the AI integration, my hat has been turned into doing more AI related work. So we're trying to figure out how to not be so dependent on the big boys, because once the big boys take away the free menu, because right now we have a nice Chat GPT, Grok, Gemini, Perplexity, Claude. We got all these different AI options, and they're free or very low cost. But what ends up happening if you switch over to them and then they decide to jack the cost up? You're either going to, it could crumble your business and completely close it down. So you could go from AI empowerment to AI endangerment. Right? So one of the biggest things that I've been doing is looking at methods to completely make AI run on your computer, even independent of the internet. So I'm a Ollama contributor, and for those who don't know what Ollama is or want to get to know, it gives you the opportunity to run AI locally on your computer. And I would strongly recommend that if you're into AI or interested into it, to at least install Ollama, run it locally. It's not going to be as good as the online ones, but in this day and age, it's a good idea for us to be ready and prepared for what's coming. So if you're noticing there's any lag, I currently got 2 AI servers running on my network. And that's why. So the more people that hit it, the more lag I'll get. So that's always the issue when you got this type of thing going on. I have them all hosted here locally. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll hand it back over to Carol.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. And where are you located for folks to know?
Oh, Kippens, West
Okay.
Coast.
Awesome.
Good.
Excellent. Kelly Lannon is next up on my screen. Kelly's off camera, so she's posted in chat. She's with Bees Knees Event Planning in Pasadena, and also has a full-time job, so she's kind of balancing and sneaking us in. So thank you, Kelly, for joining us. So next up is Stella, and then Terry Lynn.
Good morning. I'm Stella Regular, owner, operator of Star Creations, currently located in Old Pearligan, again, Avalon area where it's gray and drizzly and foggy here today. No sunshine, but I am originally from the West Coast. I am from Hampton, so I have my West Coast, Best Coast connections going on there. So I started Star Creations in 2016. We miraculously survived COVID, which was a good struggle since that was the year we decided to do a big business expansion and then got shut down. We focus on custom apparel, merch, promotional products, merch, basically anything we do, from a 2-year-old kid's birthday party t-shirt to corporate, provincial parks, T Railway. We're currently just working with them to do all of their merch, Cane's Quest, some of those teams, and everything in between. So some of the ladies here I've seen before, but haven't seen in a long time. And this is my first time joining Coffee Break, and I've been looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you, Stella. You and I have to chat because I don't know if I told you that my son-in-law's family's from Hampton.
No, I don't believe I knew that.
Yeah, so we're going to have a chat one day.
Sounds good.
All right, Terry Lynn and then Michelle.
Good morning, everybody. Not to rub it in, but I'm coming from sunny Deer Lake, and so I am Terry Lynn Robbins, and my husband and I own Robbins Family Farm here in Deer Lake, and we are a multi-commodity farm. We're located just on the outskirts of Deer Lake, and we have a petting farm with a strong focus on agritourism and agriculture education for youth. So for me, our priority on our farm is educating people, and not just youth, but people in general, about where their food comes from. It amazes me every day how many people do not know where their food comes from. I am also, when I wear another hat, I am the chair of the brand new not-for-profit organization in Newfoundland called Women in Agriculture NL. And we have just been in existence since February. And I have been a Carol groupie for a very long time. I'm pretty sure I attended the very first virtual session she ever did, and since haven't missed very many. And Carol and I have worked on many, many projects together. So I love coming to these sessions. AI is very interesting to me, and in fact, I just finished a full AI course with Kean College, and we decided to incorporate a little bit of AI and a little bit of into our farm, and we just did QR codes at every one of our animal pens all over the farm. So that was a real fun experiment. It was part of one of my projects through the course, but it worked out well, and I absolutely love it. And yeah, so that's us.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And last but not least, Michelle.
Good morning, everybody. It's Michelle Snow, also joining you from over on the East Coast, where, yes, it is a gray, cloudy day today, but I have to say we have had an absolutely fantastic spring, summer, and fall. So it's actually rarity that we've had a gray, foggy day. And I know, Carol, you've spent some time on the East Coast in the last little while, and the weather has been fantastic.
Yes.
So I'm Michelle Snow. I am the founder and CEO of Elevate Governance Consulting. Launched my company late 2024, so coming up on the 1-year anniversary, actually. I just realized that.
Yay.
We are a boutique consulting company that works in the governance space. So I provide support, training, professional development, policy development work for boards of directors, CEOs, executive directors, or senior management who work for or with boards of directors. Shout out to Scott Andrews. Scott and I worked together almost 30 years ago. Scott, I don't think I've seen you since in another lifetime. So great to see you and hear your voice this morning. I transitioned from a 23-year career in the provincial public service and at Memorial University a couple of years ago, and then decided to launch my own company. The transition from the very structured, hectic, chaotic world of being a senior official in government was a bit of a switch, but I am thoroughly enjoying the freedom and control that being an entrepreneur gives me at this phase of my life. Sharon, a lot of the words that you spoke really resonated with me about finding that balance and health and well-being. I have clients from St. John's to British Columbia. I primarily work in the not-for-profit Crown Corporation publicly funded space, but also do work with some private sector clients as well. So
Excellent. So Michelle and I were colleagues back in the day as well. And for me, Michelle, about 80% of my clients are in the not-for-profit space. So I have a feeling I'm going to be sending a few of them your way because governance always comes up. What is it? Is it fit to eat? And what does it look like? And what are we supposed to do? So thank you. Thank you for joining us.
thanks very much.
Right. So AI, what's it all about? So I'm going to take a page out of, yeah, Kelly?
You didn't share, like, I would like to know more what you do. I don't know if you shared a lot of what you do.
For who? Me?
For you, yeah.
For me? Oh.
Yes.
I just figure everyone knows me, Kelly. But thank you. I can tell you what I do. So I'm a facilitator
Carol
and
does
master.
everything.
Thank you, Terry Lynn. Including grid road tripper, right? We road trip together. I'm a facilitator and master trainer, and I like to say that I play on the word facilitate. I make it easier for you to be successful. So my kind of lines of business, I guess, and this is adapting the language from government, is I do public engagement. So I'm certified. I have a global certificate in public participation, which is about getting in front of people and engaging the public on your behalf, which often goes well if you have somebody neutral at the front to do that. So organizations that want to talk to the public and don't want to be seen as trying to lead those conversations will ask me to come in and facilitate those. So with the public, been beaten up a few times with the public, and others go smooth, but that's the role, and that's what I'm there for, is to do that. Another piece I'd say is meeting management. For those that know what facilitation is, that's the process facilitation stuff. So when you're guiding people through a particular process, layman's terms, we call it meeting management. So getting people in a room, sharing opinions, sharing viewpoints that are sometimes controversial. So I've done things like a predation meeting on coyotes killing sheep for the sheep producers. I've managed meetings. Probably one of the most contentious ones was polar bear management in the southern Hudson Bay region with indigenous populations and governments competing from traditional knowledge to science, and how to manage that. That was in Montreal, and it was at a time where indigenous populations were shutting down railways and they were threatening to kick everyone out of the meeting. And they did kick all of government out, but they let me stay. So I navigate through those things. And then about the 80% of my clients that are not for profit tends to be strategic planning. And so strategic plans are a big area that I'm in guiding people through that process. And then kind of a new one that's sort of on the side. I don't actively go after it, but it still seems to fall in my lap, is business plan writing and financial projections. So I'll say to people, I just make it pretty. You've got to give me all the data and the background research, but I'll put it together in a document that your bank may be a little bit more palatable for. So that's kind of some of the things that I do, Kelly, and thank you for asking. All right, so I'm going to take a page out of Mark's book. So Kelly talked about Mark, and Sharon talked about running into him as well, both on the West Coast and East Coast. So Mark Patterson of Magnet was here in May, and Corner Brook Board of Trade put on a dinner or a luncheon, and he did a presentation. And there's a few of us here on this call that attended that. And then Kelly's organization brought him back in September last week. And one of the things that struck me at the presentation was him talking about how much things changed from May to September in the world of AI. He demonstrated a tool, and Kelly Land and you and I had tried playing around with his tool that he demonstrated in May, and he showed us new features of it already in September. And to me, that just kind of freaked me out to think, like, in 5 months, it changed that much. I don't know, Kelly, if it struck you the same way, but it certainly kind of showed to me how fast things are moving. And so part of the session last week, for those of us that were there, we were lucky we got to bring our laptops in and we got to kind of play around a little bit. And the question that I kind of threw out was, how do we know what tools? And Kevin, I'm going to be really honest with you. What you said earlier is like foreign language to me. I have no clue half of what you just talked about and tools that you threw out there. And that's the whole point, right? Is that there are so much out there and we may not even know what's out there. And yet some of us might be embracing some things. So when I asked Mark that question, he said, well, I challenge you. And he did give us this challenge back in May, which I didn't pick up on at that point, but I'm running with it this time, is we need to learn from each other. And I thought, well, what better place to try this and start this is on this network, because this community of practice that we have going for 6 years is all about learning from each other. So really what I'm thinking for today is very free flowing and just raise your hand, share with us what you're using, what you're not using. If you're looking to do something in particular, and you want to know if there's a tool out there, perhaps somebody on this call will know that. And that's really what I'm kind of envisioning for today. So if you have questions, throw them into chat or raise your hand and open your mic. If you have a success story, so Terry Lynn shared using QR codes and doing something new, then that's what it's about. So I'm going to turn it to you folks, whoever wants to jump in and kick us off. Sharon.
I was at that session with Mark in Corner Brook. I'm no smarter now than I was when I was there with AI. I'm still, like I said to Kevin, duh. So I was watching you guys play around with it. But I like one thing that he did say, and so did Kelly, the facilitator, like it's imperative that we have a group that we stay together as a group that are moving forward with this AI. So we are learning from each other. And he did say get this group started and stay together and do some training. And the other thing I wanted to say too, that Terry Lynn, you said you did that AI course or whatever training with Key and Tech. So I registered for that. Now I haven't got the cohort back to go any further with it. So I don't know if I'm in or out. But I'd be interested in doing the training, because these sessions, they are great, Kelly, their information, but they're not giving me what I need moving away. Like when I get home, all of that is like blank. Like I'm saying, where was that? What was that now? And what was Olama that Kevin mentioned? And unless you're doing the course and you've got something, for me, this is how I learn now. And I can go back to the material and say, okay, this is step one, and then we can get together as a group to support each other from time to time. So yeah, that's where I see myself in this anyway.
Okay,
Sharon,
excellent.
if I could just step in here, Sharon, that's exactly how I felt as well. I had actually attended several different information sessions, both, in the entrepreneur world as well as like through agriculture, online platforms. And I kept walking away going, okay, well, that was great information, but I'm more of a hands-on learner. And so when the opportunity came with Key and College with the CBDC AI program, um, it was I jumped at it and it was amazing. Andrew is the instructor and he's really, really great. He's very patient. The staff through Kian is very patient. And it walks you through everything. They do something different with every class. There are, it's a great opportunity. So I would recommend it to anyone. And it's free right now. So if you can get registered through it, it's fabulous.
And it's distance, right? You can do it like it's
It's
not in
all
person.
online. Yep, it's all online, which
Yep.
is fabulous. And honestly, I had been sort of dabbling a little bit in like Chat GPT, that sort of thing, up until I took the course. Now my Chat GPT, I've named him Kevin. Um, he's my new best friend, and I probably Kevin is part of my everyday. I joke with Carol whenever she asks me, "Oh, have you done this?" I'm like, "Yep, Kevin and I did that this morning."
She does.
So like it is amazing how it has completely changed everything. And the
Awesome.
QR codes, I will say, that whole project was amazing for me. Like I really wanted to do something different. Anybody who's been to our farm knows that we're very different than any other petting farm that you would go to. You don't just pay a fee and walk around and leave. We do a guided tour because, again, the priority of our farm is to educate people about where their food comes from. But sometimes we're just two people and it's really, really busy. As an example, at Open Farm Day on Sunday, we had 537 visitors to our farm in 4 hours. And, so even though we had all hands on deck that day, you just don't get the opportunity to talk to everybody. And so I really wanted to incorporate something that still gives people the information, that still helps to educate them, and maybe they don't want someone to walk around with them all the time. And so putting the QR codes at every single pen, so you scan the QR code and it takes you directly to a picture of the animals in that pen, and it's a voice recording of who's in the pen and a little bit of like I'll use my Serama chickens as an example. It tells you their names, it tells you when they were hatched, but it also tells you a little bit of history about the Serama chicken. And so as you go through, you can literally scan something at every single one of our pens. And so, for me, we always see people, they're always taking pictures at the petting farm. And so they've got their phone out anyway. Why not? And if they don't have data on their phone, that's okay because we actually have Wi-Fi, so they can use the Wi-Fi if they want to. So, for us, it was about making our farm accessible to everybody. And believe it or not, it was younger children using phones, their parents' phone, because that was like a game, what they, wanted to scan the picture or the QR code. But we saw a lot of older people like using their phones as well. And so for me, that was really exciting, like just to watch people use it. I will tell you, my husband went kicking and screaming along with this project. He didn't think it was going to work. No one's ever going to use those QR codes because he doesn't. And so he wasn't in favor of the QR codes at all until he started seeing people using them. And he's like, uh, I think I actually have to say, people are using your QR codes. So that was a big win for me on all different points.
For sure. Excellent. Thank you. Michelle.
Great conversation and great topic, Carol, as always. I think, so as I said, I work in the governance space, and, the conversation around AI and how we're using it or how we're managing or protecting ourselves around it is an active conversation, I think, across every single sector. And I'm old enough to remember when, the World Wide Web and all the information that came along with it and social media was first being introduced into our workplace. And as I said in my intro, I worked in the public sector at the time. And, I can remember conversations. If you walked by an employee and you saw them with Facebook open on their computer, well, you had to shut that down. People couldn't be doing that because you presumed that they weren't working. And then fast forward where that became an essential and still an essential communication tool for government and the public sector to communicate information. So things ebb and flow, and they kind of settle out. And I try to center myself in that sort of where we are in the artificial intelligence conversation right now, even though it's been around for a long time in many ways. But we're sort of at that tipping point now, I think, where the product and the availability and our interactions with it is much more prolific than it had been before. And so I think now we're all sort of pausing to think, how can we get on this bandwagon and use it to help us in the work that we do? And I think by some of the examples that's been shared, there's lots of ways that it can be used to improve our lives. in the space where I come from in governance, we're also having a lot of conversations too about appropriate guardrails and protections around AI. So for some of the clients that I work with in the public space, and particularly in the private sort of publicly traded space, protection of their information and their intellectual property is critical. And so when we engage with a client, we've put in place some pretty strong protection around our commitment when we're working and interfacing with them and their information and their intellectual property, how we're going to protect that. And so, tools such as Copilot or Gemini or Chat GPT, though we have very specific protocols around what's on our machines, how it's used, what functions we've turned on and off, because that stuff is reading everything you have and it is creating a digital footprint of who you are and what you do. And the positive thing is that's creating this huge database of material out there that can be leveraged by other people at the click of a button. But from a privacy protection piece, it's also important. So I'll just share two quick little stories that I've encountered recently, and it may not be as directly relevant to your day-to-day work, but some of you may be involved in other boards and organizations. So lots of organizations that I participate in have been using an automatic transcription service to capture the notes or the minutes or the action items from a board meeting. And so sometimes people have that setting set. So when you get a meeting request, it automatically sends your otter or attaches your other transcriber, whatever it is, to the meeting. So we had a situation where an individual, everybody was showing up to the virtual meeting and everybody's otters and transcribers were showing up. But in this instance, somebody's otter came to the meeting and the person, the human, wasn't there. And so nobody really paid much attention to it. And we're going along in the meeting and the conversation drifts in a particular area, which would have been very different had that person been in the room. And so the otter belonging to this person who was not physically in the room or at the meeting then got a transcript of all the things that had been said. And people would have changed the tone or the trajectory of their conversation had the individual been in the room. So that was one. The other instance was an individual was in the room who was responsible for taking the notes and the minutes, and then they left for the in-camera portion, but their transcriber stayed in the in-camera portion. And we were about 15 minutes into the in-camera before I realized, this person is getting a real-time transcription of an in-camera meeting that they shouldn't have been in. So I share the story with you in case this is relevant to any of your circumstances that you're in. But it's good to think about, if you're using some of those tools, have you had a conversation about how you're using them? And just to be conscious and aware so that you don't have any of those oopsies as you move along. Carol, I also did want to say I've got to jump off in about maybe 10 minutes or so because I do have another appointment, but I had a window in my calendar this morning and I was glad to be able to join in. So lovely to meet and see you all. You're doing exciting, wonderful things. So, and great to hear about some of the people that Carol works with. So fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you, Michelle. As I say, arrive when you can, leave if you need to. So it's a very casual community that we've built here, and we come and go as needed. So thank you so much for making some time. Scott, you're up next.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a quick point, and actually just totally going to build on what Michelle said. Michelle just highlighted something that I wanted to bring up, Carol, that's probably most relevant with the folks that I chat with, because again, ChatGPT just came out of nowhere, 16 months ago, and people are just like scrambling. And it's almost to the point now of the clients that I deal with, which are younger entrepreneurs, which definitely have usually no trouble accepting and adopting technology. So this is not something intimidating, but there's still a whole piece out there that while everybody's excited, and there's almost like a fair strategy now where if you're not adopting AI, you're going to be left behind, or you're already left behind. And, especially small, young business owners in Newfoundland and Labrador that I deal with are kind of like, well, what should I be using? I use ChatGPT. I used it yesterday. I had to write a testimonial. I didn't have time. ChatGPT did it in 6 seconds better than I could have did it. So totally amazing. But yeah, like what Michelle was saying, Carol, most of the young entrepreneurs that I deal with, while they want to adopt it, they're still wary of the potential negatives. And especially like what Michelle was saying, like if I get a piece of AI, and I'll just use ChatGPT. Kevin can list all the other ones and stuff. If I'm using it to summarize an internal document or a supplier document or to do, what are other people seeing? What is ChatGPT learning from this? So I think the privacy protection confidentiality piece that Michelle highlighted is making a lot of people nervous. And while we're super excited to adopt it, a lot of people are going like, wait, no, what is it that we're doing? Or what did I just allow AI? Anyway, so that's that point piece is also, so we got to balance the super amazing positives to what about the other stuff that I might be sharing or I didn't know I was sharing or yeah. So
Yeah. So one of the things that I picked up from the session last week, just to that point, and I didn't realize that you could do it, is you can create temporary conversations. So when you're using some of these tools, rather than have it always remember absolutely everything that you're putting into it, perhaps if this is an internal document that you're concerned somebody else may see, then make that a temporary conversation so that at least that won't save and it won't build into that history of the tool learning your style and your speaking and those kinds of things. So I thought that was an interesting thing because I wasn't aware of that at all until last week. That because I actually like my conversations. I'll go back to a conversation 4 days later and say, okay, now I've got another piece I just thought of. So I'm going to throw that in there instead of having to rebuild that whole conversation. However, to what Scott, you and Michelle have brought up, I can see a very good application that if I'm going into something perhaps a little bit controversial or sensitive, or I don't want any history of it, which usually I end up going incognito to do stuff, if I don't want any history on my computer. I shared a tip with Carm, like if you're booking a flight, go incognito, because if you go to Air Canada more than once, they're going to jack up the price every time you go. So you go incognito and they don't know that you're looking for the same flight. But anyway, I thought that was a good feature to know that you could actually turn off the tracking of that particular conversation once you close it. And that may be a way to protect some of those guardrails, as you called it, Michelle. Carmelita, unmute yourself.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment, Scott, about the privacy, and that something we really have to be aware of. And yeah, the incognito thing is great, not only for flights, but for concert tickets, Sharon, which we've used many times. Yeah, so I'm signed up also for the Key and Tech training. I'm looking forward to that. But I've been just dabbling around a little bit with ChatGPT for the last year or so. Actually, one of the members of our Health and Wellness Committee just brought it to our attention one night. And ever since then, we've been kind of using it a lot. And I use it sometimes too. Sometimes in my lesson plans, and if I'm dealing with someone who has a health issue or an injury, I can just go in there very quickly and what are the safety, what do I need to look at for safety for this person who's practicing yoga. I find it great for that, and so quick. I'm sure I could find it other ways, but this is so quickly I can do it. And I can just put in, so someone is dealing with low back pain or a low back issue. Give me 5 safe and effective poses or stretches for a low back issue. And it just spits it out. And then if you want more, can you give me a couple more? And so much more than that. I find I use it a lot for things like that. So it's great. And I don't know how heavily I will get into it. Probably not real heavy. But I found it great for that. And I'm looking forward to learning more about it. And thanks, Carol, for having this coffee break today, because I think everyone is really interested in learning more and seeing who's out there who can help us all.
Excellent. Thanks for joining. I think Mark in both of his sessions, May and last week, threw out and asked people to share one word. What are you feeling? And kind of one word. And it really goes from the spectrum of excited to terrified. So, it really runs the whole gamut. And I think I agree with sort of some of the assessment that we had last week is that in the short term, we're terrified. In the long term, we're excited about what it can do. And Kelly Lannon shared an example last week that her brother is a double amputee, and AI has advanced tools for him to be able to live in his home and still be able to, access things. And his wheelchair is much more advanced, and different things that are supporting him. So in the medical space, like, we know that there's going to be leaps and bounds, complex problems and how they're going to be solved, and those sorts of things. So that's exciting, right? And we're anticipating that, and we're expecting some great things to come out of that. But in the short term, the privacy and the breaching and how does this actually work for me? And Sharon's comment, like, hands on. So Kevin, I'm going to go to you, because obviously, this is a world you're comfortable in, and without kind of overwhelming us or kind of, doing the whole list of things, but are there a couple of things that you want to share, or you could share with us, about how do we take some of these baby steps, and how do we find out what things beyond ChatGPT that maybe we could be using, or should be something we could think of? Folks have kind of given you a sense of who they are, but can I draw on your expertise?
Yeah, no problem. I think one of the biggest things is, as I mentioned before, when we rely so heavily on the big boys, whether that would be Google, Amazon Web Services, these are backends that are storing our data, right? One of the things that you want to avoid is any type of personal information about yourself or about others that you don't want it to be potentially accessible at some point for whatever reason. You don't put that on to, for example, ChatGPT, right? You run a local large language model, and you could install a, oh, sorry. Let me put that down. You would install a local large language model, and you'll be able to put your files there. Now, I'm not going to get into the complex terminology about what it is, how it works, and what have you, but we can do something as basic as, if you want a smarter AI for your business, you give it documents and information about your business, and then it becomes a smarter AI for you. For example, I believe Terry Lynn was mentioning Kevin. So Kevin would be given more information about everything about the organization, and then could become a chatbot advocate, for example, and people could go and ask questions about her business and get the right information provided. Because what you don't want to have happen is that you ask for a particular answer to a question, the information that comes out is incorrect, and you never know that the incorrect information was sent out. So with the systems that I've been working on, I track every question asked, every answer provided, as well as we do an audit to make sure that the information that was provided to an end user was actually correct. And if it wasn't correct, we need to make an adjustment to the back end storage, so the next time a question is asked, they get the right information, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And they're keeping all the large boys, they're hiding their secret sauce. Okay. they're not saying, hey, yeah, we went online and we used all these books and we used all these videos. Really? Okay. What books did you use? What videos did you use? And they don't want to share that. They just say, hey, it's the magic sauce. I can't tell you what's in the sausage, right? So right now, like, if you use, for example, Google Notebook LM, the good thing about that, it's a brain without memories. So you can't even ask it something as simple as what's in the news today. It just doesn't know anything until you feed it your documentation. Once you feed it your documentation, it's a very literal output. So it can't hallucinate and make mistakes when the only thing it has is this information. It only can start hallucinating and making mistakes when it has a lot of information that could be considered similar, right? So that's the biggest thing is, if you want privacy, to the most part, you should be doing it locally. If you don't do it locally, we're all mentoring AI right now. Every question that we ask, every way that you can ask one person the same quote. We can all go to the AI right now with the concept of, give me a cooking recipe. Now, all of us are going to ask the question slightly differently. The thing is, AI will remember every single way that the question was asked, every single topic that everybody was interested in. And what ends up happening, that's where the hallucinations take place because, oh, you're talking about a bear. Oh, are we talking about Goldilocks and the Three Bears? So it starts to hallucinate, and all you really wanted was information about how to protect your home from, you live in the woods and you want to get one of those bear mats with the spikes in it so the grizzly doesn't come right into your house, right? But because of the AI having experience with movies, books, stories, it'll give you sometimes an hallucination. It'll talk about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and you think to yourself, hey, I got a real bear to worry about, not fake bears. Right?
Right.
So that's the type of thing. So for a good AI that you can rely on, you got Google Notebook LM, brain without memories until you give it memories. So hallucination is very low. Like there's a low to zero because it got no information to hallucinate with, right? If you use a local LLM, for example, let's say Llama 3, which is your brain, it's a brain with memories. So where the memories came from, what the memories are, whether they're correct or incorrect, there's not much you can do. It's probably like an 80% hit. A lot of people are okay with an 80% hit, but it can be problematic when you are doing, let's say, medical information. You don't want an 80% hit. You want a much higher rate of correct information coming to you because you don't want to make a mistake with that, right? So there's all kind of like the best thing for this type of thing is you got me here. I've been programming since I was 11. I've been building software programs and contributing to some of the biggest projects. I've done work with Google. I've done work with Homeland Security. I've done like this is my like it's techie stuff. That's my spot. So if
Okay.
you have a question, feel free to ask it. And then I could probably say, hey, you can try this, you can try that, you can try this. Because otherwise I'll just ramble on and you'll be like, I asked him, what is it? I asked him what time it was. He's telling me how to make a watch. So, the best thing to
So
do is to ask a question and I can probably provide some useful information.
excellent. So I'm going to encourage you, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind, throw your contact information in chat. So if you're open to that, and then folks can reach out to you.
Well, right now
Beyond.
your chat is not allowing me to put stuff in there. Like for example, I got like over 400 different AI tools that I was going to share, but I can't share the database because the chat is locked out. Just to let you know,
Oh,
I'm getting buzzed here, so I just give me a minute and I'll be back with you guys in just a minute.
okay. Sharon, I don't know if you had a question specifically for
Chat's working
Kevin.
for me. Just and Scott, you just put that in there too.
Yeah.
But that was great. I enjoyed what Kevin had to say there, all those interesting facts and phenomenon that he's quite familiar with, but goes right back to not familiar. Would love to get more familiar, so need a lot of training. So Kevin, even though you're signed off, if he offered training or something, we could avail of that. We should get him to come to our area and do some hands-on stuff and teach us this stuff, like in person.
Yeah.
Now, Kevin, you didn't hear that. So, Carol, you better reiterate it.
I will, and I know Kelly. He's
Kevin, you
hearing. He's
got
just
that,
on a
Kevin?
call, so he's
Okay.
still there in the background. Awesome.
All right.
Kelly, did you want to jump in on that?
Sure. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to say that in terms of where to start, I think, and just kind of dovetailing on what Mark talked about, as well as just my own learning, is starting with a task, like a task that you felt like that you could be spending a lot of time with. Like I remember someone talking about they handwrite all the scheduling or something. And to me, that definitely could be, well, just even on a spreadsheet to start with, and then into a database, but also AI could support with that, I believe, as well. But the challenge is, and this could, my own personal perspective, I've been following this pretty heavily since January, and I see all the different models. I see and have experienced different models, tools. they all seem to have different personalities, really. And I do believe that's because of all the information that they're being trained on. So these large language models that Kevin is talking about. And depending on how much information that they have and the prompts that you're giving, this causes the hallucination in terms of giving incorrect information. That's a hallucination, just spitting back incorrect information. So I personally am very reluctant to put any kind of personal information on there. I use it for like writing. When Scott mentioned about that testimonial, I spend a lot of time on writing, and if I have to do, like a report or something, I will use that. In fact, and then yesterday I just met with a individual who needs a business plan, and I said, okay, well, you could easily, and without putting any, specific information, just as an and with the prompt, as an expert business plan writer, give me a business plan for a local bakery that wants to open up, that I can give that business plan to a bank for financial review and to secure a loan. So, and it was like in seconds. I was astonished. And so anyways, he could just take that, copy that, all of that text and put it into a Word document and then fill in the blanks, because basically it just had, parentheses to, put the name of the business and put, all the kind of fine details. And you don't have to put that in AI. You can just put all that information in a doc. And then, maybe if there's certain aspects within that business plan, you can just drop those without, specific information, and revise that, perhaps that paragraph or something, or that section or something, right? But I think it's the practice of thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to ask the question. Another ways that can be used is also in terms of taking pictures and or marketing, that kind of thing. But again, it gets back to your own ethics, and, the models, the tools have all been trained on other, like, as to Kevin's point, on other people's information, and artists' work. So that, again, that I'm still trying to reconcile myself how to navigate that, because I don't want to be, taking advantage of artists' work who are not even being credited, Right. Same with writers and so forth. So anyways, that's my own personal, I shouldn't probably get into my own personal thing here, but those are just concerns. I think I'm probably not alone, and something that you need to think of and reconcile for yourself. And just another note, and I really thank you, Sharon. And by the way, you have a great radio voice. We are so these AI workshop series, it's an actual series that Navigate is offering, and it's really just a taste, right? And this is the whole thing of these information sessions, similar to the one that Mark did in May. These are all information sessions, I think, to raise awareness and hopefully decrease some anxiety. Although I have to say, when I see some videos and Mark's and others, it kind of freaks me out, because I'm watching this daily and seeing all the releases. Anyways, their information session, we need to educate ourselves first about it, and then I think, to the Kean college course, or I took an AI and learning design course, which was a boot camp. It was amazing, but it actually really did get me to do things. I wasn't allowed to just read about all the releases, and it got me to try different models. So we are actually offering another session on October 14th. This one is going to be definitely locked down to 20 seats only. Betsy Bond is the facilitator. She's a lot more hands-on. I would have to say, my colleague Renee and I, we took her one-day session, and she's definitely hands-on and talks very specifically about how to prompt and gives examples on using prompts and so forth. Anyway, so that's Betsy. And then in November, we'll also have another session. But I do think, in order to learn and really apply the skills, really, is that it needs to be on an ongoing basis, right? It can't be just these one-offs. Although I think the one-offs help, and just kind of, I don't want to say the word I'm looking for is just train our own brains, right? And wire, fire and wire, right? So that when you do actually try and apply the learning, it'll come a lot easier. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Kelly. It's encouraging to hear that you've got some more sessions coming. So I think we'll be looking forward to hearing that. Terry Lynn.
I was just going to say, just as a follow-up to what Kelly was just saying, when I created my profile in my ChatGPT, I put all the basics, but very few personal details. Like I added in about, agritourism and a few other things, but I didn't actually put any personal information in there at all as well. Yeah.
You mean you're not a Johnson, what is it? The Rock lookalike, 6'12", You giving your own personal details. I remember, and it's funny you talk about, the privacy and different things. 'Cause I remember years ago as a union representative at a large telecommunications company, and the management had put out a survey. And one of my members came up to me and says, "I don't trust management." And so she was probably a 40-ish-year-old woman. She said, "I told them I was an 18-year-old male." And I'm like, okay, sure, because I didn't want them to track back to me that it was my answer. And I'm like, they're not going to track back to you. This is a survey of 400 people that's going to be amalgamated. But she was so hesitant. We're talking like 30 years ago. She's like, I faked everything. I faked all my demographic stuff because I didn't want them to possibly track it back to me. Right. And here we are talking now about not giving out all of our personal information because people are going to be using that, potentially as harm. Thank you, Kelly, for sharing that. I was going to say something similar to Kelly as far as how I use it. I'll just share a moment of how I use some of the tools that are out there. And personally, I've drifted to Copilot versus ChatGPT, which I know is essentially the same, but I think Copilot's, I don't know. I've actually done where I put the same prompt in both just to see what they give me. And sometimes they're similar, sometimes they're not. So I find that really interesting. But I somehow have just sort of gravitated to Copilot lately, but it's all part of my Microsoft package. So I guess that's why I'm just kind of gravitating to it. But I tend to write something first, and I know I'm very verbose. So I'll write it and then I'll throw it in chat, say, clean it up. So I'm not asking it to kind of, draft something without any information. It's usually based on something I've already formulated somehow. One of the things that I did pick up on last week's session was how important your prompts are. So I'm thinking, I'll go back to Carmelita's example of safe exercises. So rather than say, give me 5 safe exercises, and you have to kind of give your prompt or your tool a role. So you are a yoga instructor working with an age group of, 40 plus, primarily women looking to better do this and this and this. Some are experiencing this particular ailment. What are some things that can be modified? And like you make your prompts actually become quite long, which when I started was, hey, how are you? Give me this. And it would give me something. Oh, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Give me this. And then it would come back. I'm like, no, add this in. And it would come back. I have this like 14-page, one line conversation now. And Kevin's smiling and laughing at me because I'm sure that's what we've all done. But now, because of some of the things that I've experienced with some of the training and conversations, now it's okay. You are sitting on a board of directors for a not-for-profit who is currently issued a request for proposal seeking a consultant looking for this. Spicer Facilitation is going to submit this response. What does it look like? And like I give this great big long kind of thing in, and then it will come back and it will say, and I've even done drafted a proposal, put the proposal in, and then say, put all my proposal in it and say, give me an executive summary. Because that's where I get really wordy, right? And I don't know how to write, how do you summarize the 14-page proposal that I just put in? So it'll come back with an executive summary. Perfect. And I fixed it to Kevin's point and Kelly's point. There are hallucinations at times. So there's So it's like, no, I wouldn't have said it that way. That doesn't sound like me. I'm going to take that word out, or I'm going to change it. One thing for me particularly, and I have to build it into my profile and tell them not to use it, but I don't use the word stakeholder. I've been told that stakeholder is a colonial term, literally put the stake in the ground and I took your land. I know, Kelly, when it was because I struggle for the replacement word. It's very hard to come up with a replacement word. And it's still a word that we use in project management. So when I'm teaching project management, I use that word in the context of the teaching. However, usually I use something like knowledge keepers or community experts or some other type of term. But inevitably, if I don't specify that, my AI agent will come back with stakeholders all throughout. And so I'll go and change that word. But Mark told me last week, because he heard me sharing this example with somebody, and he said, all right, tell them to evaluate your proposal. Oh, cool. So now I've written my proposal. Then I'll put the RFP up. I'll put my proposal up and I'll say, all right, you're sitting on the board and you're evaluating it. What score would you give it? And it's been kind of cool because it's like, this aligns, hey, you're a little weak here. Oh, okay. So let me beef that up before I go and actually submit it to the organization. So that's a way that I've used some of the agents recent or some of the tools recently. And testimonials is a great one. I use it for workshop descriptions. I've been asked to go to speak during Small Business Week in Bayvert and Springdale, and I'm doing a keynote. And I'd be like, okay, how am I going to describe it? It's a 10-minute speech. Or a 30-minute presentation. How do I describe that? And so I'll just give some prompts and it'll come back and say, that my client can put out and say, come here, Carol, talk about this. And I'll give you a nice little synthesized instead of my rambling on description of what I think I'm trying to say. So there's a couple ways that I've used it. Kevin, you talked about Notebook LM, and that's the one that Kelly Lannon and I were playing around with in May, and then Mark shared last week how much has changed. So for those that don't know, Notebook LM doesn't do that broad search into everything as Kevin talks about. It has no brain. So I'll go back to you, Carmelita, again with your example of looking for something specific. You can actually enter into a notebook. These are my trusted resources. So I'm not going to Dr. Bob. I'm going to, certified instructor, such and such and such. And you have all of these resources that you trust that you're putting in. It's only then going to search through those trusted resources. It's not going to be, I got that right, Kevin? Kevin's giving me a thumbs up. I'm so excited. It's not going to be giving you that broad potential of somebody wrote a book about exercises and it's giving you the fake information. So you can actually build in. So Sharon, for you, for instance, if you put in Deepak Chopra, if you put in Sadhguru, if you put in all of your trusted folks into this tool and then said, put your prompt in, give me what, the key recommendations are, or give me something such and such, it will only search through your trusted sources as opposed to going
Yeah, I
out.
was going to add something there, Carol, too. Like a lot of my clientele would say they turn on YouTube. Like even with schools and educators, they do YouTube guided meditations for schools and other things. You're opening your psyche and your psychology up to God knows who. And unless they are accredited with somebody that I'm affiliated with, I won't recommend it. I won't recommend
Right.
any YouTube videos for meditation or, they don't have any support for after. You can't reach out to whoever this is. And a lot of people, so yes, when you're putting stuff into AI for specific areas, one thing popped up in one of my queries one day, encouraging meditation before bed. I do not encourage meditation before bed because that's energy. You're tapping into energy. So it's actually revitalizing you. So it's just what you want to do before you go to bed, ramp yourself right up. So no, so you do have to, you got your own smarts anyway. So if you're telling Carmelita to, for a 70-year-old woman to bend forward and, whatever the technique is, she's reading through it before she incorporates it anyway in her class. She's saying, that ain't going to work. So we know that we got to have our smarts about us too with the information, which we always did anyway. But AI is making it even more, I guess, critical for us to look it over and proofread it. And then, like what I said about what Kevin, the information that Kevin has given us and others, like Mark, is the legality of it. Like what are we going to be responsible to? Or and I think Kelly, you mentioned that too, right? Like we're using other information. Do we need to be citing it? So yeah, these are all the things I know that we had to play around with. I mean, that's the easy stuff, just to get in there and play around like we do with Google and YouTube. But these are the things that I want to know from the training: how to use it, how to use it right, how to know I'm not going to end up in jail for something or shut down. These are the things that moving forward I want to know. I want to use AI. I'm not one bit afraid of it. I want to be cautious about it, but I want to have this solid knowledge about it, like we should with everything we're doing, from farming to yoga, whatever it is. Yeah, so thanks.
That's awesome. Excellent comments. And I think to that too, Sharon, there's times I know that I've been very open in certain situations, say, hey, I used AI for this, and because if there is a mistake, call me on it. And that's not to say AI is a crutch and I'm going to blame everything on that, but maybe that's a learning for me that I missed something there. But I'm using the other way that I've used it a lot is summarizing long documents. So if I've done a SWOT analysis with a client, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and I've gotten pages and pages of information, in the past, that took me hours to go through and theme and figure out how many times did somebody say purple and how many times did somebody say red, and get all those themes. Well, now I can throw all that in and say, give me the themes. And it'll come back just like that. But again, it's not going out to the netherworld saying, give me themes. It's saying, analyze just what I've put in. So it's not saying, give me all the themes of how many people like purple. It's saying, how many times do people say purple in this particular document? Or, where is it coming from? So I feel comfortable that I'm kind of limiting those hallucinations, I guess, Kevin, as you talk about, because I'm not kind of going out in that general query world. I'm using it within something that's already started or already somewhat created, versus, say, generate me something new, which I think is fine. I think there's ways to use generate me something new, but I think, again, it's probably back to, for sure, Kevin can reiterate, is back to what parameters you give it, how your chat prompt is built, what restrictions you're putting into it, and so on, right? I don't know, Kevin, if there's anything you can add to that.
I think one of the most interesting things is that there's something that's in front of everybody that's the answer to all their questions, but they don't ask it. So when you have a thought, I want to get an answer from the all-knowing mighty Oz, which is the friggin' the ChatGPT, right? The best thing to do is ask it the question. So you don't know the answer, you ask it the question. I want to write a prompt on a particular topic. What should I do? There's no better or faster mechanism that could provide the answer you need other than the tool that gives you the answer. It's almost like you're not calculating calculations faster than a calculator. So what best way to do it? Ask the freaking calculator. So anytime you have a question, one of the nicest things is probably to install a couple of these AI apps on your phone. So I got a variety of different ones on my phone, and
Okay.
you can talk to it. So you would say, like, I could open up Grok here, for example, and then I could go into the voice controlled option, and I can start talking to Grok and say, hey, Grok, I'm looking towards making an AI on this particular topic. Can you give me some advice about what I should include or what I shouldn't include? What are some common problems if I was creating an AI on weightlifting?
It's processing it now.
Libraries, personalized workout plans.
Okay, so that's just for starters, right? So you
Right.
keep talking to it until you get your idea flushed out. By the time you're done talking to it, now you have a really good package. So instead of typing 11 lines of code, you can go back and forth chatting, whatever, but you could do it in a more natural sound, and especially with any of the phones, Android, Apple, any tablet. The built-in audio is very good. The audio quality is really good. Sounds like a person. And they're also trying to make sure that it takes breaths. It sounds excited if you're excited. So it's doing some mirroring as well. So if
Okay.
you've got a lot of positivity, a lot of energy, and you want to do it, it's going to come back to you with a lot of positivity, a lot of energy. So if you're a little bit more quiet and subdued and more serious, it's going to come back to you more quiet, subdued, and serious. It's going to mirror you. So it's getting really good at the mimicking. And anytime you have an idea, talk to AI about your idea because you're using AI to come up with your idea or flush out your idea or make your idea a reality. So just make sure to just go to the AI because the AI has the access. Now, always review it. It's not 100% correct. Sometimes I went and typed in my own name and it gave me some titles with these organizations that I never worked with, and it was like certain, right? It says on the bottom, what 100, like I'm 99% sure. Like, yeah, right. That's maybe you should ask me first, right? Especially when it comes to answering questions about technical stuff. It gives you this code, so you grab the code and then you try it out and it don't work, and it says, hey, I know what's wrong, and it keeps on doing that BS return every time. So it'll either give you code that works or partially works or needs to be adjusted, or sometimes if you rely too heavily on it, it'll break everything. So just make sure if you're asking it questions about anything that you're building, little tiny questions, little tiny chunks of code, it seems to be able to fix that. But you give it a lot of code, it gets a little bit confusing, it gets a little bit creative where you don't want it to be creative. I've seen it completely change an interface for me when I only asked it to fix a little tiny bug. So, and you just got to be careful and just make sure if you have an idea, ask it, talk to it, check out what comes back out as your potential action plan. And once you're happy, then execute.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Appreciate that. Stella, did you have any questions or comments? Don't want you to feel left out here at all.
No, I'm just taking it all in. I do use ChatGPT, but I use it basically just for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
On a business level, I use it to write a lot of my business Facebook posts, a lot of my social media. Now, I did use it to help write my campaign flyer. I did run for council here in Old Burlington, so I did use AI to help me draft up some of that stuff, which was
Yeah.
kind of interesting with what it came back. Again, mostly all on professional business level, not personal information.
Well, I got something for
Um,
you that I want to share with you. Ask it how to win the election in your area. Now, get this. It already knows based on the data, like, who's been in, because the data traditionally, after it gets simulated, is probably 2 to 3 years old. Each term is at least 4, right? So the
mhm.
cool thing is when I did it here for locally, it knew every existing member, their previous votes, how many people voted for them, their platforms, everything about them. So, hey, if you want to know, like, ask it, how do I win? Right? And it was so cool. It came up with a big plan. Do this, do that, do this, do that. And the next thing you know, you've got yourself a pretty good strategy. Figured I heard it. I'm going to share it with you.
Perfect. I'll have to try that. Um, but one of my struggles with AI on a professional level for me is from clients and customers. I work with a lot of new small businesses just starting up. And because I'm doing promotional products and merch, they're using AI to create a logo. What they're not realizing, and they're sending it to me saying, I want this on all my products. And they've already started using it on their website, on their social media, whatever. Those images are low resolution. And trying to take that image, because they're figuring they're saving cost by having AI generate a logo instead of going to a traditional graphic designer who can actually do a high quality image for them. So they're coming to me and I'm going, well, we still got to send this out. But people are looking at AI as a cost savings, and to a certain degree, it can be, but it also can be a downfall if you don't know what you're doing with it and you don't realize the limitations of what it has. So I see the positives on it because I use it myself, and I also see the negatives of other people using it and not being aware of everything that's involved or what it can actually or what it is producing.
Yeah. And I can see too, Stella, if people are generating logos, like, are they based on something similar? Is there copyright issues? Are they infringing on somebody else's logo and branding? Like,
Oh yeah, I
and
get a
then,
lot of logos that come in looking a lot like Harley Davidson, and they're going, but it's not Harley Davidson because AI created it. I'm like, oh, it's still Harley Davidson. I can't print that.
yeah, exactly. Awesome. Excellent. That's a great example. Thanks for sharing. Kelly.
A couple things. So actually, thank you, Stella, for sharing that. And that's really interesting because I do think many people go and use, and especially now with this nano banana business, holy cow, it's unreal in terms of trying to use it for low cost savings. And especially if you're a solopreneur, you don't have, a lot of financial resources. Well, you're trying to maximize, resources. Anyways, so thank you for sharing that. One.
Oh, you just ended up clicking your microphone off somehow.
Sorry.
There you go.
One thing I wanted to share, and I just dropped in the chat, is so Dotto Tech, Graywave. So Steve Dotto, I knew of him years and years ago. He's always been a tech guy. And anyways, now, so speaking of, to align, Carol, with your mission, I guess, but he definitely wants to support entrepreneurs who have gray hair, I guess, for lack of better words, but older entrepreneurs, and he's passionate about it. This is definitely his passion, and he offers free workshops on many different things, tech related and business related, for entrepreneurs on Wednesdays. And then he also has different specific programs, like he had one on AI. There's he's on Patreon, so you can pay. He has minimal, like he really tries to keep his programs and so forth at low cost. He had a boot camp. I did the boot camp that he offered that was free for online businesses. It was excellent. I learned so much, and he's a wealth of information. So I just dropped that in chat for everybody. The other is I am going to drop in just Instagram. Now I know we're on Facebook. I tend to gravitate to Instagram myself, but so I'm just putting Navigate Instagram for there's a link there to our link tree, which will have our event. We haven't posted yet for the session on October 14th or November 18th. We'll wait for that one. But anyways, like I said, it will be with Betsy Bond. It's not posted yet, but we will be posting it in the next day or two for registrations, and it will be limited to 20. The other I wanted to ask Carol is, so and thanks too for sharing about Navigate and that collaboration since 2020. I had no idea about that, so thank you. I didn't know what the original ideation or pilot for Coffee Breaks was, so that was really cool. So I want to thank you. Oh, and I also do, just before I'm taking a lot of time here, Terry Lynn, thank you so much too for sharing all what you did. That was really interesting. The other piece I wanted to ask is that, so with Coffee Breaks for moving forward, like, are you always going to have a kind of an AI component, or is this going to be kind of, or like, I wasn't kind of sure where you were, because I really, whoever decides, and if you want to lead in terms of having AI as part of your coffee break, I just think it's super important. I've learned a lot today, and it's really lovely to connect with everyone. So that's my question.
So the short answer is maybe. And the reason I say that is, I mean, this has been an evolving 6 years in. I think the value is that we have different topics each time. We sometimes bring in specific guest speakers. And lately it's kind of just been me guiding conversation, and not because I think I'm the expert. However, in some of these areas I am quite familiar. So rather than bringing somebody in, it's really about what the community drives. So I take examples or suggestions. We've had people in about marketing. We've had people in about diversity. We've had people in about, um, fiduciary responsibility for not-for-profit boards. Like it's been the gamut of topics. We've done wellness, we've done all kinds of different things, and I think that's what keeps it kind of fresh, Kelly. So I'm not sure that I would want to turn this into just that full AI community. I think though it might be that each month we say, okay, 5 minutes, where's AI with what we're talking about now? Is there some way that this can interact? Because I think to everyone's point, it's here. It's something that we are going to become more comfortable. It's like imagining now we didn't have the internet. We wouldn't be doing this. So like fast forward 5, 10 years, we're going to be, oh my God, remember us back in 25 and how scared we were. I think that's where we're going to be. The challenge is, as I said earlier, long term, we're seeing a lot of potential benefits. How do we get us there in the day to day? So I think, would this always be AI? No. Will there be AI incorporated into it? I think that's going to become the reality as we move forward with whatever topic we're talking about. So, and if there's a way that if Navigate ends up sort of creating that community of practice, if there's a way I can support you in that. And when I was with the provincial government, I had 9 community of practices that were my responsibility. From administrative professionals to project management professionals to you name it. But that was one of the things that I did. And that's kind of where this comes from. To me, we're creating a community of practice of entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. You and Scott and others in the support agencies, we couldn't run our businesses without you folks. So we need you guys here to hear what we're saying and also to learn what you offer to support us. So that's kind of the purpose. Long answer, but the short answer is maybe. So looking at time.
That. And I didn't think it was going to be. I just thought, and I love the fact that you took initiative and said, okay, let's continue the conversation. And so I just don't want us to drop the conversation. At this moment, I don't know if I can take on another piece, but anyway, so thank you for explaining that. And I do think it's important to keep it fresh. And if there was a separate community practice on that, just on AI, anyways, I'll see if I can manage leading something like that. But I was also thinking that if there was enough people that maybe each person, when we meet, could lead the session or something, and that we had one specific piece that we talked about. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Thank you for answering my question. And thank you again for taking the initiative today. I really appreciate it very much.
My pleasure. So a couple of things that I'm going to wrap up. We've got 2 minutes to go. So first off, thank you again for all attending. A few things that I've picked up, and if there are other events, please share. October 15th, CBDC is doing a webinar on hiring. I know that was a topic that people had put out before and we never actually embraced, but it's a virtual webinar. So CBDC, I know Humber's advertised, I think other ones have as well. November 18th, there's going to be a reverse trade show at Greenwood in Corner Brook, and it is about doing business with government. And I think they're doing these in other areas as well, but I only know about the one locally in Greenwood. So instead of you being the table pitching your business, you're going to be able to go to all the government departments and find out how they purchase and what they purchase. So I thought that was an interesting one. I'm juggling my schedule to see if I can make it to that one. I'll do another shout out for Navigate. October 17th and 18th is the Jose Lamb Startup Weekend. I went to a startup weekend when I was in jeopardy of losing my job, pitched my business, stayed for the weekend, lost my job, started my business. That's the short version. Longer version, I'm telling the story during Small Business Week, but I've been a mentor, I've been a coach, I've been a participant. It's a fantastic weekend. So that's happening October 17th and 18th in Corner Brook. Small Business Week is October 19th to 25, and look for areas, things happening in your area. It's a fantastic week to get out and celebrate being a small business owner. The ecosystem around us puts off a lot of events. So look to see what other events are happening in your area. Sharon, is that your retreat that you just posted a link in?
No, I was trying to share the Fearless Women announcement. The Fearless Women, I guess it's
they've got an event
in
coming up as well.
And yeah, I was trying to share the link, but I'm not successful there with it. Apparently, it's not showing the whole. So that's October 25th in Corner Brook.
Okay,
Try it
October
again,
25th.
Carol.
Sharon's got a retreat
Yeah.
coming up, but I do think you're full, Sharon.
Was that filled up like right away? Carmelita's
Okay.
one of the presenters.
Yep.
Several presenters here. But that's it. I just put that link in there again for the One Woman Fearless Women's Summit. There's one in St. John's as well. So I'm a guest speaker there. So I don't know how fearless I am, but I know I'm a woman. I'll attest to that.
We will hear you roar. So way to go. Congratulations on that. I think that's all I kind of picked up. I don't know, Scott, if you've got a Rock Your series coming up or anything new coming out.
We always do. The Rock My Business free virtual workshop series happens every month. So
Okay.
they're constantly rotating all kinds of sessions to help focus a business idea, write a business plan, and I'll post it in the chat to our events. Like we even did a session which I missed, which I want to do in the future, Carol, a super cool session, how to use improv techniques to help small businesses with selling and stuff like that. So we're constantly offering different sessions and stuff.
That would be so cool.
Yep.
Because it's interesting you say that because I've been reading a bunch of different articles on LinkedIn. I'm in, follow a bunch of facilitators, and of course we all share information and stuff. And the ability to pivot is what we're kind of all landing on, that is actually our strength. It's not about fear, we don't have a fear of public speaking and all that kind of stuff. It's about how do you pivot in front of everybody when something goes sideways or it just isn't landing right. And what do you do? I remember you can do all the preparation you want, but I remember going in to teach a workshop on coaching. And so I go in, I'm a big sports fan. I don't play sports, but I like to watch sports. So I go in with, the Miami Dolphins perfect season
Yep.
and talking about football and all this coaching. And there's just blanks, right? It's just not landing. And I'm like, what's going on? And I look around the room and pretty much everyone is from the Middle East. or India or different areas, right? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this isn't working. They don't understand North American football, and nothing's making any sense whatsoever. So I kind of stopped myself and I said, okay, who's played soccer or cricket? Every hand goes up, and like, okay, let's talk about cricket. I know nothing about cricket, but let's talk about cricket and coaching and practicing and teamwork and so on. So it's about that ability to be able to pivot. So improv is pretty cool. I think that would be a really neat session. Because we're always pivoting and improving sometimes to pictures and stuff. So it'll be cool. Thank you, Sharon. Namaste. I'll do to Sharon and Carm. Namaste to all of you. Thank you so much for spending the day with us this morning with us. I know we've gone a little bit long. My apologies on that, but follow us social media, and I'll be posting the next Entrepreneur Coffee Break, which I'm hoping to do sometime in October, although I might take October off because of Small Business Week. Usually a lot of people are involved in a lot of sessions around Small Business Week. So it could be November, but if I can fit it in, I might fit one in October. If you have topics or suggestions, as always, feel free to send them along. And enjoy the rest of your day, folks. And thank you again so much for being part of our community. Take care.